and welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups, technology and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Srikanth coming to you live from India's startup capital, Bengaluru, and we kick it off then with our first story, which is how funding fared in the month of July. It's August 1st today, so we are going to get you a roundup of the most active investors in July, as well as how much was raised overall. We are of course also going to bring in Arun Natarajan, the founder of Venture Intelligence in Chennai, to give us more perspective on these trends. Some of those numbers will just be coming up on your screen. The amount of money raised in July, there you have it. 55 deals worth 597 million. That looks like a healthy number on the face of it, but we will seek more details from Arun on how this compares not just to the previous month, but the previous period last year. So compared to June, this is certainly a very healthy number. 37 deals worth 400 and 597 million worth 55 deals in July. I'm sorry, if you look at the year ago period also, it's almost trebled in numbers. So this looks like a very healthy number. And remember, July was also noteworthy because we saw at least 3 unicorns emerging. So you had Swiggy, you had Policy Bazaar, and you also had Freshworks. So that's a good sign for the Indian ecosystem. The fact that some of this capital is coming back, that investors are coming back. I think the Flipkart Walmart deal too has raised the overall level of confidence. For more perspective, let's go across to Arun Natarajan, who joins us from Chennai. Arun, on the face of it, what do you make of the numbers? It looks pretty good. 597 is a very good number, not just compared to the year ago period, but the previous month as well.
Indeed, Chandra, this is really a very strong month, and on the back of an already strong month in June, very encouraging. Just as you said, the numbers are quite evident. We are talking about 2x in terms of the volume of deals compared to July 2017, and actually 2.5 times what got invested in the same period last year. And compared to the previous month, already a strong month, it's 50% higher, both in terms of the number of investments as well as the value of investments. Just to dive a bit deeper, in terms of the bigger deals, clearly the momentum is building up there. We have seen as many as 14 investments which are either $10 million or bigger happen in July, and this is actually double compared to the same time last year. So clearly the momentum is not letting up, like you said, in some of these unicorns and so on. So clearly, that being said, the volume or the number of deals also is in kind of a 2-year high, and except for 1 month in between, in I think June 2016, 50 deals plus is very, very healthy. And the last but not the least, angel activity has also picked up very significantly, driven substantially by angels co-investing in the follow-on rounds with VC investors. So we've seen as many as 44 angel investments happen in July, and the last 12 months we've been averaging only about 20-24 deals or so. So all in all, a very encouraging month and a good start to the second half of the year.
Right. Right, Arun. In fact, there was a report yesterday on how angels are taking off, not just in the big cities, but they are driving investments into many small towns in India and into completely different kind of business models. So I think that's a positive trend. But what can you tell us in terms of sectors? Is this again going back to fintech and edtech and health tech, or are we seeing the focus on consumer trends coming back, because you see a lot of consumer focused names as well getting funded, and this is a space that Sama Capital has played very well in the last year. So what can you tell us in terms of sectors?
Indeed, consumer plays are increasing, and we've observed that we've discovered Bira, for example, quite a few investments have happened there, and similar food and beverage companies. And outside of that too, we've seen quite a few of the tea chains, for example, and also, FMCG products as well. So that being said, it's still a tech dominated, month, 80% at least went into tech plays, and some of these are really border, how do you really define, cure fit, right? So do you really call them an offline play, a consumer play, or, a tech play, right? It's a mix of all three. So it remains to be seen, but clearly there is more interest, from the VC community to look at more consumer, and there are specialist, individuals within firms taking over as partners to focus just on that segment, and we are seeing this across VC firms. So having said that, within tech, clearly, fintech is dominating. Almost 18% of the investments have gone into fintech even in July, followed by health tech, and like I said, CureFit is a big one there. And interestingly, we are also seeing some other sectors coming back. For example, real estate tech is something that got hammered quite clearly in the 2016 period, along with food tech and also local commerce kind of place. With those coming back, it's good to see some kind of activity back in real estate tech. So for example, they have VR companies of the likes of Foyer, for example, raised a very healthy Series A round. And of course, we've seen these co-working spaces, and Sequoia continues to invest into Office, the co-working company founded by the Yes Bank family. In that sense, another 20 million got invested there. So broadly, that segment is a new entrant into the top set of sectors investors are focused on. So the mix is actually quite healthy.
Finally, Arun, before we let you go, it's all positive so far, but what sort of red flags should we be looking forward to? Was July perhaps a one-off, because many deals were getting closed, and even yesterday, right on 31st, we saw Freshworks suddenly coming and announcing a 100 million round, which was expected for a while. So, I mean, should we look for some red flags in August? And if you can give us an overall picture about how 2018 has been so far, because it looks like the green shoots are back in the ecosystem.
Very clearly, it's looking all positive at this point in time, if at all, and I really don't want to put anything negative to jinx the mix at this point. So one is obviously the Series A choke point continues to be a challenge. So even in the month of July, seed deals increased very well, and we saw a good rise in the follow-on Series B, Series C kind of stages, but actually Series A deals fell even in a healthy month like July. So that remains a concern for the ecosystem. That's one. Two, this is something we saw in 2015, and quite a few hedge funds coming into the venture capital ecosystem. I've at least tracked 4 investments already this year by hedge funds, and that's typically kind of a nervous situation. While I've said Series A is a challenge, these guys are really playing in the Series B and beyond. Whether the ecosystem really needs the hedge funds to come back is a question mark. It really remains to be seen. And third, I would say we can definitely do with more exits. We have to remember, Flipkart is now 2 months old exit, and obviously, it's a big question mark in the ecosystem being removed. But we are seeing quite a few investments, including the ones you talked about, the unicorns. We actually thought some of the early stage investors in those companies would take money off the table when the likes of SoftBank come in, but we really haven't seen. And it's a question, why aren't these folks, are they looking at more upside? Isn't it better? For example, we saw in 2015 TaxiForSure, Myntra, where the investors really cashed in when the big guns came in. This time around, we aren't seeing them cash out. So maybe from a LP perspective, the investors in funds, that is, it will be good to see some cash exits happen in the second half of the year. But otherwise, I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, things are really looking quite good at this stage, minus this Series A at this point.
Right. Maybe we will see those exits when some of the portfolio companies in IDG go IPO. At least that's the wide expectation. You know, people are talking about Policy Bazaar and Lenskart. We don't know when that will happen. And of course, there's always SoftBank to bail out some of these investments with cash exits. But on that note, thank you so much for talking to us, Arun from Chennai, as always, with all the data, all the numbers, and of course, all the perspective. Moving away from that to the second story, we in fact have another entrepreneur from Chennai on the show this evening. We're talking about Sridhar Vembu, the founder and CEO of Zoho. Now, Zoho's distinction, you know, it's really seen as a poster boy for SaaS companies in India because it's managed to grow in scale and size minus any funding. So it's been bootstrapped from day one, and the philosophy of its founder Sridhar Vembu has always been to play this for the long haul, grow this gradually and not through funding. Sridhar joins us on the show to talk about 1 year of Zoho One, his plans to open up data centers in India. Sridhar, thank you for talking to Startup Central. You know, we interviewed you when Zoho One launched last year. The operating system for business, as you call it. From then to now, take us through how the traction has been, because on the face of it, at least the paid service has done very well for you in India. You are seeing increasing adoption in India with 36% of your Zoho One paid users from this market. So take us through the traction that you've seen for Zoho One.
Zoho One has gone incredibly well. We now have over 12,000 organizations globally on Zoho One, and on average, each of these organizations, on average, they're using 16 plus applications. So both in terms of the number of organizations on Zoho One, which is more than 12,000, and the number of applications that they are using, and that adoption curve is accelerating now, both in terms of the organizations that we are signing up every month and the apps within the organizations that already are on us. And what is gratifying to us is just how many of these are coming from India. In fact, over 36% of our paid seats are now coming from India, which is something that we are very proud of. We are very happy to report that.
The other focus area for you in the last year, Sridhar, has been around GST, and you had a dedicated product for that, Zoho Books, to really help SMBs with how they adopt GST. Now, there have been teething issues with respect to the return filing and how this has been executed. But has this been a big area for you in terms of potential, in terms of the traction that you saw in terms of business from GST?
Definitely, GST has accelerated the adoption, accelerated the migration of customers to the cloud, because you really have to be online in order to keep up with all the GST issues, and that has really helped us, and we have a powerful suite for GST. In addition, what has happened for us is the customers who came for GST stayed with us and then expanded their involvement with Zoho by going to Zoho One too. So that has also helped us.
Right. Sridhar, it's just been a few days since the Sri Krishna committee released its report on a privacy framework, a data protection framework. So I can't help but ask you about the very contentious issue of data localization. Now, you are planning to open data centers in India. You've spoken about Mumbai and Chennai. What's your overall take on their recommendations as far as data localization is concerned? Some people say it's perhaps too stringent, even more stringent than the GDPR, particularly the norm to store a copy of every data set in India. Would you agree with that?
First, GDPR, we fully have embraced GDPR. Of course, we have 2 data centers in Europe. What we have done is we have extended the GDPR style rights to our users worldwide. So that means that we are actually ready for data protection law when it comes, because we already have the GDPR capabilities. And speaking of data localization, in fact, it's very timely, because in August, in fact, by August 15th, a very special day, we want to launch our data centers in India, which means from then onwards, Indian customers would have the option to keep all their data within India. That's something that we are launching soon. Our primary data center is going to be in Mumbai, and our secondary backup data center is going to be in Chennai. That's something that we have already invested. We have already completed all the work. We're just about to launch within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So are you in principle okay with the data localization norms set out then?
I'd say we are going to be ready if this were to become law. That's how our stance is, because we see the regulatory regime is going to definitely change on the whole data handling, and the wild west of the internet where anybody could do anything with their customer data or consumer data, that all the tracking, all of that the industry got accustomed to, is going to come to an end because of GDPR and related legislation worldwide. It's also similar legislation is brewing in several US states, in Canada, and around the world. So it's part of a global trend, and I know there's we as a company, we take a very strong stance on privacy. So to us, this fact that these laws are coming up is not a surprise. We anticipated it, and we are getting ready for it. And so when the law does arrive, we will be fully ready. And we'll also enable our customers to be ready, because we are going to open up our services so that our customers can comply with these regulatory changes.
Sridhar, the other trend that you touched upon when we spoke to you last time was the consolidation that you expected in the SaaS space, in the enterprise space. How is that working out?
Definitely, a lot of it is driven by the availability of easy finance. That has been the driver of a lot of the explosion you have seen. And we are seeing tightening of financial conditions around the world. And we are seeing that in India as well. But around the world, this is true, that finance is now not as easy today as it was, say, a year ago or definitely 2 years ago. And this means, and this is one driver. And the second is, a lot of the SaaS startups, particularly in the cloud, they're not profitable because of the cost of customer acquisition. This is something that I spoke about before as well. And cost of customer acquisition, if anything, is going up further because there's too many players chasing the same number of customers out there. All these trends, I mean, the financing, the end of easy financing, and the explosion, your rise in terms of customer acquisition costs, all these dictate a consolidation wave that is coming. And we have prepared ourselves by bundling or creating product suites, like CRM Plus, and also the Zoho One operating system is the ultimate suite where we are bringing all of these applications together. We do see this trend spreading across the industry, which inevitably means that smaller players will have to come together, and that's consolidation, and to be part of broader suites. That's the trend that we see.
Sridhar, thank you so much for joining us on Startup Central. A lot of entrepreneurs obviously look up to you on, how to build an enterprise from the ground up without any funding. So, that's a bootstrap champion right there for you, Zoho Sridhar Vembu. But on that note, time for a short break, but don't go anywhere, because on the other side of the break, we'll tell you what TaxiForSure co-founder Aprameya is up to these days. He has a new venture that's focused on the next 100 to 100 million users. We also tell you about Apple's earnings call, which found just one mention of India, a trend that's completely different from previous quarters. We tell you why on the other side of Startup Central. Welcome back to ET Now Startup Central. As promised, we tell you about an entrepreneur's next venture, and the one we're talking about is TaxiForSure's co-founder Aprameya Radhakrishnan. Now remember, TaxiForSure sold out to Ola Cabs a few years back. It was founded by Raghunandan and Aprameya Radhakrishnan, who exited as a result of that sale. and then they turned to angel investing. But after dabbling in angel investments, Aprameya has now decided to launch yet another venture, and this is targeted at the Bharat market, the market that's beyond the first 100 million users, because this is going to be an internet in local languages. What is this all about? How is this going to work? My colleague Rahul caught up with him to really understand this business model.
Vokal is a knowledge sharing platform. So, basically for anybody in India who doesn't know English, it's very difficult for them to reach out to somebody and get to know something new, right? Whether it's career, how to crack an exam, their love life problems, to family problems, to, it could be just relationship advice or, opinions on politics, right? All of this is very difficult for the person who doesn't know English, because the internet is majorly made in English, right? So this is an effort by us to make sure that the power of expression is given into the hands of those who are not so comfortable with English. Creating an internet for non-English users, as they're all getting smartphones, access to internet, but they don't have something meaningful to actually do on the internet.
And engage on the internet.
And engage on the internet. So this is a platform which is giving them a genuine reason with meaning to actually engage on the internet. So Vokal is a place where you can come and learn from others. One format is you ask a question and others will come and answer in your language with voice or video.
Aprameya, one thing interesting that I've noticed is your first startup sort of catered to the first 100 million people.
Correct.
Now when everyone's talking about the Bharat audience or the next 100 million, interesting, now you've come up with a startup for the next 100 million. So was that a conscious decision?
Even with TaxiForSure, the most vital part of that network was our drivers and operators, right? So firsthand, we were seeing them struggle with the apps that we were creating for them, right? So I think that was always in the back of my head. And all products that are being, in the past decade, any product, internet product that's come, has kind of capped out at 100 million users or so, and then the growth becomes stagnant. Or you're basically dependent on the market forces to grow the market, give more money to people to spend and all those things. So,
note, we are completely out of time on this edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned to more news and updates on the channel.